And so today our readings give us a little bit more about love and about abiding and about bearing fruit. And today, John introduces this concept to us. We haven't heard this in a while, this idea of Jesus as friend. And Jesus tells us, because I'm your friend, you will love those who are friends of mine. And the carryover from last week is that, again, this kind of friendship has nothing to do with feeling. It has nothing to do with whether we like someone or not. The friendship that Jesus invites us to accept and to extend to one another is the friendship that comes from giving what we have been given. If anyone is beloved of God, then they are our friend. And so we try continually to make sense of a God that would love someone like me, or you, or those people. And we know, and we have been hearing that this God, that this love includes and nurtures in a way that we can only strive for. And so as we try to understand this God, the thing that hinders us probably the most is our own language. That we are limited by the words that we have available to us to describe a God like this. And so we do what humans have done throughout the course of history, is we use metaphor and images. And we talk about God as creator, and God as vine grower, God as rock and living water, God as shepherd and king. And historically in the Christian church, the most common name for God is Father. There's a lot of reason for that. But we know that God has no gender. And again, limited by our own language and limited by our own imagination. And yet this term father is problematic for many of us. If we had strained relationships with our fathers, even worse if they were in any way abusive to us, if we don't even know who they were or are. And so sometimes the very words that we put to the person of God can be painful and sometimes impossible for us to get past in our attempt to simply be able to talk about this thing that is God. And so today on this Mother's Day, this lovely gift given to us by Hallmark, right? Not an official church holiday, by the way, in case you're wondering, right? But it is an opportunity, Hallmark aside, to also look at this image of God as mother, which we don't look at very much in the Christian church. And again, it has its own drawbacks, just like Father does, because it limits us, our imagination, to whatever our earthly experience is, and sometimes that's just not very positive. And so when we think about God as mother, some of us just get uncomfortable because, of course, God is Father, really. Not sure about that one, but we can talk about that after worship if you'd like. And God isn't really mother either. Again, limited by the language, and yet there's something about this idea of a mother God that I think has been lost on us because we have leaned so much towards the Father side when we talk about God in human terms. And so I'm wondering what it would be like to claim this for ourselves. This God who is creative and generative and nurturing and welcoming, and in whose image, this image, at least half of us are made. So to reclaim this God means letting go of who our own mothers have been, for good or ill, so that we can see more that God has to offer us in this nurturing way. Let us not, I think this is perfect, by the way, so I want to thank Piper for not being happy in here right this minute. Right? Because this is helpful, honestly. This idea that we are like that, right? We stamp our feet and we cry before God because we didn't get what we want, right? And this mother God of ours just picks us up, puts us on her hip, carries us along till we grow out of it, right? So much of this image is useful and powerful. I want to offer, again, in an attempt to not only maybe heal some ideas for some of us of what mothers are, but also to reclaim this God who is both father and mother. There's a poem that I've asked Maureen to read to you by Allison Woodard. So let's just sit with this poem for a second.
To be a mother is to suffer, to travail in the dark, stretched and torn, exposed in half-naked humiliation, subjected to indignities for the sake of new life. To be a mother is to say, "This is my body, broken for you." And in the next instant, in response to the created's primal hunger, "This is my body, take and eat." To be a mother is to self-empty, to neither slumber nor sleep, so attuned you are to the cries in the night, offering the comfort of yourself and the assurances of, "I'm here." To be a mother is to weep over the fighting and exclusions and wounds your children inflict on one another, to long for reconciliation and brotherly love, and when all is said and done, to gather all parties, the offender and offended, into the folds of your embrace, and to whisper in their ears that they are beloved. To be a mother is to be vulnerable, to be misunderstood, railed against, blamed for the heartaches of the bewildered children who don't know where else to cast the anger they feel over their own existence in this perplexing universe. To be a mother is to hoist onto your hips those on whom your image is imprinted, bearing the burden of their weight, rejoicing in their returned affection, delighting in their wonder and bleeding in the presence of their pain. To be a mother is to be accused of sentimentality one moment and injustice the next. To be the receiver of endless demands, absorber of perpetual complaints, and reckoner of bottomless needs. To be a mother is to be an artist, a keeper of memories past, a weaver of stories untold, a visionary of lives looming ahead. To be a mother is to be the first voice listened to and the first disregarded. To be a mender of broken creations and a comforter to distraught children whose hands rock them. To be a mother is to be a touchstone and the source bestower of names and influencer of identities, life giver, life shaper, empath, healer, and original love.
If God is all of these things, certainly the name mother fits, at least for some of us, some of the time. This mother God that the poet talks about, this mother God tears herself open for the sake of life, over and over and over. This mother God satiates our every hunger and fills our every need. This mother God comforts our cries and bleeds at our pain. This mother God weeps over our constant fighting amongst ourselves, our indifference to injustice and to each other. This mother God whispers in our ear, "You are beloved. You belong to me." This mother God is vulnerable to our need, a vulnerable God, so deeply and intimately connected to the creature that she has created, vulnerable in that relationship, vulnerable to our need to blame her and to cast onto her our fears and our uncertainties and our insecurities. This mother God imprints her very image on us. This mother God rejoices in our presence and delights in our wonder. This mother God calls us by name, weaves into life our very being. This mother God is our healer, and perhaps more importantly than all of the rest, this mother God is our original love. Now, I don't know about you, but my heart needs a lot more of that. My heart needs to know a God like that. I want to crawl up into the lap of a God like that. And maybe you do too.